And to talk more on this topic, we have with us Mr. Nia Dinata in the studio, producer and filmmaker who just finished Ini Kisah Tiga Dara, a remake of the 1956 classical by Usmar Ismail. Hello and welcome.
Hi.
Now tell us about this film. What's going on? Why the remake, and what's the point of it all?
Well, it's not actually a remake because a remake film use entirely the same plot, stories, scenarios, the same name, characters, and everything. My film is not a remake because I interpret freely the characters of Tiga Dara from 1956, and I interpret it through the growth of modern day society, and it's everything happens in 2016 in my film Ini Kisah Tiga Dara. So it's just a film inspired by the glorious Tiga Dara in 1956. So it's inspired by, I love the word inspired by instead of a remake.
Right.
Of course, I grew up with Tiga Dara. My grandmother loved to see it in TVRI. Sometimes, like Saturday nights, they put an ad in the newspaper that Tiga Dara will be in TVRI, our national TV, the one and only, when I grew up in the late 70s, early 80s. And then we all would watch it at night, all together singing and dancing together. So I grew up with Tiga Dara, the classic Tiga Dara.
Yes.
So as a filmmaker, when we were involved in the restoration process, I mean, I supported the restoration process, although I didn't go to Italy myself, but my team was there, my production partner was there, and of course it's like just amazing to keep on making the characters of Tiga Dara, the glory of Tiga Dara alive by doing something inspired by it. You know, like, you know, when in the US, in Europe, it's also common when one film become a classic and then people do something inspired by it, or a remake of it exactly the same, but you know, different year and everything like that. So it's something common, and Indonesia need to get more inspiration from our masters, from our film masters in the golden age of Indonesian cinema.
And you've made previously a lot of people say that it's controversial films, of course. Now, but there's always a moral behind the story. In this one specifically, what are you trying to convey to viewers at home?
Well, viewers in cinema, I hope, not at home, because we're gonna watch it in cinema. We're gonna make the cinema more alive, because 2016 has been a great year for Indonesian cinema. We have a really great increase in Indonesian people watching Indonesian films. They go to the cinema, and it didn't happen for the past 2-3 years. It was flop during the past 2-3 years back, and then this year it's like it's starting to pick up. So I really hope that people will come to the cinema, entice their sensory. We human have sensories. We have our skin, we have our smell, we have our ears, we have our eyes, and by watching Ini Kisah Tiga Dara, the musical, you will entice your whole sensory. It's a musical film. You can sing and dance and watch the drama and everything. And I was so inspired by the classic Tiga Dara because that's how I felt when I watched it, even on TV in my grandparents' living room. It's musical, we're dancing, we're singing together, we watch, we laugh, we cry together as a whole family. And I want to repeat that beautiful bonding between families or friends who go to the Indonesian cinema to watch a glorious Indonesian film.
Now,
why not?
Back to Usmar Ismail, in his era, what was the problem there? Now, is there enough support from the government? And back then, there's Perfini backed by these organizations to sort of push film. Is that happening now? What's lacking now from the government?
Well, the difference now and then, Perfini, you said, Perfini is the Perusahaan Film Negara, so it's a BUMN. It's a BUMN, Badan Usaha Milik Negara. And it is still like that up until now. But I don't think they have produced anything since probably late 70s. They has been very passive, inactive. For a very long period of time. And then during the 50s, I think the government, the state, really pushed Perfini as a state-owned film company to really, produce, to be very creative, to embrace films, and to I think they open their doors to filmmakers like Usmar Ismail and then other great Indonesian filmmakers in that era. So it was a very active film production company owned by the state, of course. These days it's no longer active. I think the government is now trying to revamp PFN. It's not now called PFN, no longer Perfini. But I still don't know what they're trying to do. But in a way, I really cherish our independence this day. As an independent filmmaker, we don't necessarily need the government financial support or a government-owned studio support. We can be independent, stand on our feet, and make our own story and make our own film based on what we really love. And that's the difference between what happened in the 50s, early 50s, and what happened now.
Now, as a filmmaker, from Mr. Usmar, what kind of techniques and what kind of themes do you sort of like from him as a filmmaker, of course?
Yes, of course. He's like our master of film. He's like Indonesian Federico Fellini. And I really love the fact that he's a man who really has respect for women's story, because Tiga Dara is purely a women's story. It's a story about sisterhood, about three sisters and their grandmother. And he is a man, a creative man, artistic man who can capture the emotional bonding of sisterhood. And I really think it's rare. Yeah. These days especially.
Now, for your film, what kind of achievements are you looking at? Are you hoping to get? Tiga Dara was released in Cannes Film Festival. That's a big.
In Venice, not in Cannes. In Venice.
And what about yourself? What are you trying to get? What are you hoping for?
I mean, I will be very happy if the Indonesian people enjoy watching it, and then if it goes to film festival, I just treat it as a bonus, because I think these days there are films that can be hold to be released in national cinemas, and then we wait until it goes to International Film Festival first, and then after International Film Festival we release in our national cinemas. But for Tiga Dara is the other way around. We're going to release it in national cinema first, and then we wait until there's an appropriate festival for it to be released in the festival. And then we're releasing it in 1st of September anyway, because the film is just finished last week. And there is no, I mean, for Venice it's already late this year. And if we want to submit next year, it's, I mean, people already watch it all over the world. So whatever film festival pick it up, I would be very happy. Maybe Tokyo in October, they already written us a letter, very eager to see the screeners of Ini Kisah Tiga Dara. Or maybe Berlin in January, if we are passionate enough to wait. But I'm more looking forward to see how the Indonesian people, my own people, take it as a watcher and as a film lover.
Now, for film lovers, how do you see the outlook? How do you see the future of film industry in Indonesia? Well, let me quote some from Korea. Korean Film Council Lee Sang-suk said that Indonesia's film industry is very similar to South Korea in their beginning, in the beginning of their film industry. So,
Yes.
did we just begin, or where are we right now?
Well, I think he said that in 2009 or 2008, right? And it's like 7 years ago, the Korean Film Council came here and saw our start, our development. And I think it's, if we study the Korean film development, we had the similar beginnings. They also argued a lot with their government. Even they put snakes inside the cinema, because the cinema only give quota for Hollywood films, so they put snakes. Mr. Lee was the leader at that time before he became the Korean Film Council chief. However, then after that, the government really understand that they need to support Korean film, their government, and then they give quota for Korean films to be at least at least released in the cinema for the first 2 weekends. And then, not limiting Hollywood films, of course. Hollywood films also can, be released in Korea, but they encourage business people to build more and more cinemas.
Sure.
So there's enough windows in the cinema to show both, and both can compete equally, fairly. And I don't know, our government hasn't really done anything that is concrete these days. Of course, they support Tiga Dara premiere, not the restoration, but the premiere. And then I think it's a baby step, but my team and I, we really appreciate that when Tiga Dara, the restored version, was premiering on the 3rd of August, working together with our Ministry of Culture and Education, and also with the Creative Indonesian Backcraft, Badan Ekonomi Kreatif. And but just for the premiere, I don't know, I just hope that they should make some kind of awareness campaign, like this is your classical film, go and watch it in the cinema. I remember Mr. Anies Baswedan, before, when he was still the minister, he said that I will make a campaign asking people to take their parents to the cinema to watch Tiga Dara. But then he no longer our minister, so I'm very sad in a way, and I hope that no matter where you stand, no matter where you're at, you don't have to be a minister, you don't have to be high up there in the government, but you can really go and take your parents to the cinema to watch the classical black and white Indonesian glorious Tiga Dara.
Definitely hoping for the best.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.